Hey, I'm Gretchen,
I'm Corey.
and we are two girls and Jesus. We are here to share some verses with y'all about gathering for the month of what month are we? November, right? Yeah, Thanksgiving, November. Um, because we all know that for the holidays we start gathering, and that can be stressful, it can be joyful, it can be happy, it can be a whole bunch of things all at one time.
Yeah, for me, everybody has their big holiday that they love, and it seems like most people love Christmas. I love Thanksgiving. It's my absolute favorite. When we were kids, my grandmother would come in town, and before she came, we always had to clean and clean and clean. So, just getting ready for the gathering.
Yeah.
And it was the one time out of the year that my mom would allow us to use the dishwasher. It was one of those dishwashers you had to roll
Yeah.
over and
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 hook
hook
up
it
to
all
the
up.
sink.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that was the one time that we were allowed to use it and didn't have to wash by hand. I don't know why. There weren't more dishes then than any
Yeah.
other time. But it was just this time where my grandmother came and spent time with us, and then my mom would take us shopping for Black Friday, which wasn't insane like it is now. So it was just lots of fun. It was about, getting your picture with Santa and just all these little memories that they just make my heart warm. And so it is always the big, big holiday with my mom. And I've told you before, my girls go the day before and have their own version of Pi Day, which is not what most people call Pi Day because it's not the numbers, it's not March 14th. Um, it's the day they make 7 or 8 pies, just, whatever. It doesn't matter if it's only going to be us there, all those pies are still being made. So great memories. It's my favorite time. I love it. I love the gathering.
Yeah. See, holidays were always stressful for me because I was always traveling back between, whatever state we happen to be living in, back to Georgia, to see my dad, my mom's parents, our whole family was here. So it was always stressful. It was always long. It was always hard. I, um, holidays just were not enjoyable as a child to me. None of them were because, you had to sit in a car or sit on a plane, and it was just bad. So as an adult, when my son was little, I tried really hard to do all the decorating stuff and, be that mom, but I'm just not that mom. So, um, and he's not that kid either. So I mean, I would just rather take a nap through the holidays, to be honest. I mean, I don't get excited about them. I don't really enjoy them. I did when Luke was little. I enjoyed them because just the wonder of
Yeah.
kids. But it's just another day to me. It's a day that's something else I have to do. Isn't that terrible?
It is, and we need to change that. We got to figure something out.
I mean, they're just, I gotta, people want me to cook stuff. I hate cooking. They know that.
Tell
People know
them that you
that.
will bring the plates and the cups
Yeah, well,
or the rolls. You could bring the rolls.
yeah, that's usually what they have me bring because if they want me to cook something, I usually fuss. So it's usually rolls or drinks or something like that. But then I gotta go to the store. I hate going to the grocery store.
Listen,
Um,
I'm going to do a plug for Walmart here because that Walmart Plus membership takes care of so many of those little things in my life.
really.
It's really, it is awesome. I love it.
So it's worth the money.
Yes, absolutely. And like the first year I got it for half price because they were, pulling me in. This year I was looking at my credit card. They have like all these little bonuses. I'm getting it for half price again because my credit card says that I can get $49 back if I pay for my Walmart Plus membership with them. It was going to be 98. So I'm getting it for half price again. It saves me 10 cents per gallon on my gas.
Hmm.
Deliveries are free as long as it's over $35. And I mean, you can't even buy 3 things without it being over
Right.
$35.
Yeah, can you
So
buy one thing without it being $35?
yeah. And I mean, it doesn't have to be groceries. You can order whatever you want. It's
Yeah.
awesome.
Okay, I might look into that, but that sounds like a lot of stuff. So
Well, and it's an annual payment of
yeah,
$49 for when you have it for half price.
yeah.
So, and they'll be
Interesting.
doing that. And Black Friday specials start tonight. So I'll be doing my Christmas shopping tonight.
Oh wow. I'm already done with Luke. I finished Luke last weekend. He's all in, he got a vintage. Did I tell you about his record player that he got?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was talking about how old it was, and I'm like, I had one of those when I was like 20. I'm
Yeah,
like,
it's
"Mom,
as old as
now
me.
it's not that old." He's like, Ma, yeah, it is. And I'm like, oh wow. Okay. But he's all into like records now, and I can't wait to give him some of the records I got him. And
That's awesome.
yeah, I got him some hunting stuff. So, because he's all about records and hunting. So, but he's done. And now I just have, my mom, my dad, my stepmom, and then we draw names with my siblings and niece and nephews because there's
Mhm.
so many of us. So we just draw names. So that's all I have left.
Well, then you should be able to enjoy the Christmas season because you won't be running around shopping.
Oh no, I'm not gonna run around and shop for nothing. I'm gonna order everything. I hate shopping. But anyway, I do love gathering with my family, with friends. I do love gathering, but I don't like the rush and the frantic behavior of the holidays.
Yeah,
Because it's a holiday, they think everything's got to be perfect. Well, guess what? It's just not going to be.
right.
But I'm telling you, if the broccoli casserole is not perfect, then there's a problem.
That's taking it all too serious. And if that's how it's been for you, I can see where that would not be great. But sometimes the mashed potatoes end up being like paste, and you just laugh about it and pull some instant down, and it's all better. Like those are memories. They're great, funny things for me. I guess it's a good thing my mom didn't make me take that too serious.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad they're really enjoyable for you. But they're just they never have been for me. So
Okay, so we're gonna take this gathering instead of it being one of those big family to-do celebrations and let it just be about your friendship gatherings or your, like our girl group when we all get together. Let's think about that kind of gathering. That's an awesome gathering. Or
well,
maybe
that's
a
funny because I
smaller
mentioned
family
you
gathering.
guys. That's funny you mentioned us because I mentioned y'all in one of these verses. I can't remember which one right a second, but oh yeah, I do. Yeah, it's the last one of this
Awesome.
part. Yeah. So you want to start us out? I know they're sick of
Sure.
hearing me whine.
No, it's good to understand like everybody hasn't had the same lived experience, right?
Yeah.
And so to take a minute and understand why somebody else might not love Thanksgiving or love these giant gatherings is because their experience wasn't the same as yours. Mine was magical almost. I mean, just a wonder. I did always get in trouble because I never cleaned my bedroom right, but my sister always saved the day.
Oh, that's
So,
so great.
all right, first verse today is Matthew chapter 18, verse 20. For where two or three gather in my name, there am I with them. I feel like we've heard this our whole lives.
Mhm.
If you've been around anybody Christian, you have heard this. It has been said. Um, and I mean, right now it's you and me, but also God's here with us.
Mhm.
Obviously, we're sharing this with people, but it's so easy. It could be just me talking to God. Doesn't have to, because I think we've talked about this before, Father, Son, Holy Ghost, Spirit, whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
Um, and it's great to spend time with God, but it's even better to spend time like we do, like we did before we even started this, of sharing our thoughts on life and what God's role is in our lives and reining us back in when one of us has something going on and we feel, I don't want to say desperate, but like we just feel like we're searching for something and we just need somebody to help us find it, right? That's
Mhm.
what I
Yeah.
think has happened with both of us. So the thing that I focused on is that gathering is community, fellowship, encouraging each other, having that foundation, being present, and of course, the spiritual gathering. So
Yeah.
that's what I got from it. I don't know. How about you?
Okay, so I used NLT. Mine was just slightly different. It says, "For where two or three are gathered together as my followers, I am there among them." And that was one of those ones that, I mean, yeah, that's what it says, but didn't sound right. The original Greek says, "Gather together in my name," and I was like, okay, yeah, that. So the one that you use sounds a whole lot more familiar to me. Um, this is one of those verses that, again, is often taken out of context,
Mhm.
and it can either encourage or discourage people. When it's taken out of context, people think, okay, so there's two or three of us, so Jesus is here. Whatever we're trying to do, whatever we're praying about, it's going to happen. Jesus is showing up to the scene. Well, I mean, that is true. It's not untrue, okay? But that's just not what this verse is even remotely talking about. You know what I mean? So it's talking about the structure within the church, right? Like if you and I, we are in town and we're at the grocery store and we see a fellow follower of Jesus committing, like, stealing something, okay? We don't go and run and blab that. You and I go together to this person in private. And when we do that, Jesus is there because we're trying to steer that person from that sin of taking things that don't belong to them, right? We don't go and blab it to the whole congregation. We keep it private. And we should never do that alone unless the sin was towards us personally. Is the only time we should ever do it alone, right? So we don't have to fear. We don't have to be scared about addressing what we saw because Jesus is there among us. That's what this verse means. But I have seen people just hit people over the heads with their Bible. I mean, there's two or three of y'all. Jesus is there. I mean, it's going to happen. Well, I mean, I've been gathered with hundreds praying all for the same thing, and that didn't happen. So you're telling me Jesus wasn't there? I know he's there even when it's just me, you
Mhm.
know? Um, Anytime that you, us, anytime they meet with Jesus through prayer, through seeking or praising, worshiping, he shows up. He shows up every single time. It doesn't mean you're going to get your way. That's not what this verse means, but that's how people have used it. And I've seen it discourage people. It discouraged me for a lot of years. I felt like I was doing something wrong. Um, and, especially if we're gathered together to do something that Jesus told us to do, well, you know what? You're darn right he's going to show up. He was there all along. And whatever the issue is that we're bringing before him, he's going to solve it. Absolutely, he will. But that it doesn't always mean that you get your way.
Well, and he says, there am I with them. He doesn't say, and fixing all their problems
Exactly.
and healing all the people. Like
Yeah.
that's obviously been something that's really bothered me because I've seen children all the way through a lot of illness, cancer specific, um, that I just didn't understand. And
Right.
that's a conversation that I'll have with Jesus, well, God on the other side, because help it make sense.
Yeah,
But when I see them in heaven, it'll make sense, right?
that's right. That's right. And the last little thing that I wrote here is, I love gathering and talking all things Jesus, God, Holy Spirit, but Jesus is there even if I'm by myself, you know? Anyway. All right, moving on to our next one. Hebrews 10:24 and 25. Let us think of ways to motivate one another to active love and good works. And let us not neglect our meeting together as some people do, but encourage one another, especially now that the day of his return is drawing near. The best way, in my opinion, to motivate folks is to just show them, is just show them. Um, and in order to show them, you got to be around them, you know, and whether you're meeting them at the grocery store, at the parking lot, to walk through town or, the church or wherever you are, wherever you meet with people, wherever you gather with people, the best way to motivate them is just to show them who Jesus is, you know? And, perfect example I have of that is, we went hiking. We hiked Pinhoti Trail, Section 6, which is one of the more moderate to difficult trails on that trail, sections of that trail, rather. And they have something called the Stairway of Heaven or Stairway to Heaven, and it's rocks you climb, and they're switchbacks. So if you don't know what a switchback is, you're going up a mountain, and instead of going straight up, you go this way, and then you go up, and then you go this way, and you go up, you go this way. So you're not on a straight incline. And but you're climbing rocks the whole way, just about. And some of them are little rocks, some of them are big rocks. They call it the Stairway to Heaven. I beg to differ. I called it the Gateway to Hell, because there was nothing heaven. Everything heaven is pleasurable, but there was nothing pleasurable about that climb for me. So we started out, that was our 5 mile day. Okay, so our first day was 3 miles in. We camped. The next morning we got up and we had 5 miles to go that included the Stairway to Heaven, Gateway to Hell, whatever you want to call it, whatever works for you, right? Um, and we're hiking, we're backpacking, we're carrying sleeping materials and food. It was a 3 day hike. And you can't carry all that water. You just can't. It's too much weight. You can't carry it. Um, so the first night there was a little creek at our campsite, and so we were able to replenish our water, boil it. We had life straws, of course, that filter it, all the yucky stuff out if there's any there. And we boiled some to carry with us. And we, drinking water as usual, and we're just going to come along another creek bed and we'll just replenish. We have our life straws. We don't have to boil. We can just drink through the straws. And all the creeks were dry.
Oh,
They're all
wow.
dry. So we get to our campsite Saturday night. Took us longer than we expected. Partly I got really off balance. I don't know if it was the elevation or if I had like sinus issue. My nose was just running just ungodly. So I'm sure it was some kind of sinus issue, allergy issue maybe, but I was real off balance. So it took me a long time to go those 5 miles. Um, so we get to camp, but we didn't have any water. And there was none. There was none to go get. Okay, it's still 5 miles off this mountain and it's dark. You can't do that in the dark because you can't see out there. It gets dark, starts getting dark on a mountain at 4:30 on the north side.
Yeah.
5 o'clock is dark, like dark. We didn't know what to do. We didn't know what we were gonna do. We couldn't eat because I was too tired to eat. But we had no water. So, but none of us were really hungry, so that was a good thing. So we just got our bedding done and we were just going to lay there and rest. And hopefully a hiker would come by and we could ask for extra water, is kind of where our thoughts were. Um, about 10:30 at night, it starts pouring rain. I mean, now we knew it was going to rain Friday evening. We knew it was going to rain Saturday morning. Rain was going to clear out about noontime Saturday. William checked the weather because weather on a mountain can change on a dime. Okay. He had checked the weather when we got to our campsite and he's like, we got clear skies all night. 10:30. I mean, it's thundering. There was no lightning that I saw, but it was thundering. I mean, it was pouring rain, pouring. And William is got his poncho on and he's out there trying to get the tarp so that the water isn't pooling and it's not dripping on us. Me and Cooper, we're under the tarp and we're fussing because we're getting wet. All of our stuff is getting wet. And then William, at the corner of the tarp, he puts our bottles to collect rainwater. And I said, oh, look at God. He sends the rain so we have water. But you know what? We're outside. We're going to get wet, you know,
Yeah.
and it made it all okay. And I was so, it's rare for me, like in the moment, to see God working, like right there in the moment. I will reflect back and see it, but in the moment, like I very rarely see God, right there in the midst of it.
Yeah.
And God knew there was no way we could hike out without water. He knew that. And so he sent the water. We got wet. We did, but it was okay once I realized we were getting water, you know?
Yeah.
It was just, I will treasure that moment for my whole life.
Good.
Yeah. What you got?
Um, so I looked at the NIV and it didn't quite say what I needed it to say for me to fully feel like I had the best concept of it. And I landed on the ESV and it says, and let us consider how to stir up one another to love and good works, not neglecting to meet together, as is the habit of some, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day drawing near. So, in the last verse, I was kind of thinking about, okay, I need to stop making excuses about why I haven't joined a church here, about why I don't go to this. I mean, it's a small group, but gathering of like-minded people. Like I have excuses for why I'm not going. And really those excuses make me neglect my faith when I'm not actively doing this with you and our producer and you and I sharing verses back and forth. It's me just excusing and neglecting my faith. Of course, then I said, oh, you know what? We really need to start visiting all the churches and make sure. Did we do that on Sunday? No, we did not do that on Sunday. Like, I just have to go do it, right? Nobody's going to just open the door and pull me in. I have to walk through the door. And like I said, I can't keep making excuses for not doing it. Um, the the way that our relationship, mine and Chris's relationship was, he worked until 4 in the morning. He would get up and go to church. He would. He would get up and go to small group. But there was always, this kid had something going on, that was happening. He ended up having to stay at work until 6 and then he was too tired. Like there was always an excuse, right? We never stayed consistent with it. Consistent with our faith on certain levels, but not in the gathering aspect, not in the fellowship consistently. It was very hit or miss. So now I just feel like this study, especially, is making me realize the importance and that I need to quit making excuses.
Yeah.
So that's what this verse taught me.
And
Excuse no more.
I love how the ESV used the way to stir up.
Yeah. I think
I
that's what
like,
kind of pushed me to go, this speaks more to what I
yeah,
needed to hear.
yeah, I like the way that just seems more like me and you. All right, so our next verse is Acts chapter 2, verse 42. You go first or I go first on this one?
Oh,
Hey, no, I don't know where we are.
yeah, that's where we're at.
Yeah, is that where we are? Okay,
Yeah,
I go first or you go first?
I'll go ahead and get this one started.
Okay.
I use the NIV. It says, they devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and to fellowship, to the breaking of bread and to power. So it's interesting. I wish that I could figure out where my brain was when I wrote this because I have it written as devoted, which they did say devoted. And so devoted, I put very loving or loyal, characterized by loyalty. Now I know where it came from. That's where when I wrote the definition for devoted, that's where I said, okay, then what is loyalty? Because it says very loving or loyal, characterized by loyalty. So for loyalty, it said the quality or state of being loyal. Okay, there we go. Using the word in the word, and I'm just trying to figure out what the word means. So I went a little deeper and went to a different dictionary, and devote said to commit by a solemn act, to give over or direct time, money, or effort to a cause, enterprise, or activity. So I still wanted to see, okay, then what does loyal mean? Unswerving in allegiance, such as faithful in allegiance to government, faithful to a private person, faithful to a cause, ideal, custom, or institution. So I'm going to put this religious thing under institution.
Yeah.
Um, they helped, but they didn't help. So what I was thinking is going back to community, and like when you feel that sense of community, it's a great feeling. Like the feeling of belonging, not feeling like you're an outsider. You feel like you've been brought in, you're welcome, you're accepted. Now, sometimes that can be overwhelming also. I will say that. Sometimes they're so pulling you in that it feels like this is bad. This is going to be a cult. What are these people doing? Why are they being so nice? That's so
Right.
fake. So it can be overdone, and maybe it's genuine to them. But we did go to this one church, and I just got the heebie-jeebies because they would not get away from me. I'm like, let me do what I let me find my place in here. Stop coming up to me and asking me how I am. Like, go away. So isn't that great? We're talking about gathering, and I'm like, go away from me. Get
Yeah.
away. Um, so I just put sharing beliefs and growing spiritually is important. Continuing to learn from the right people and in the right place is important. And I do truly feel that anywhere that I've been, there's been a reason that I've gone there, right? First church I ever went to made me realize everybody didn't believe everything that I had been taught, because it wasn't the way that I had been raised. It was a different religion that very much did not like my religion and said it out loud like we were evil people. Um, so that taught me something, right? And then I went to different churches throughout the time that their teachings would start one way and then they would twist it another way to kind of give you what they wanted you to believe instead of what you were personally reading yourself, right? Like, wait a minute, where is this coming from? And that's part of why I love doing this with you, because we can talk to each other about it and we can figure out, okay, you might be more right than I was on what this verse means. And but when something is preached at you, you know what I mean? When I say preached at you, it's like you're sitting there feeling like they're damning you.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see them or another top person do the same thing.
Yeah.
Um, so that again is one of my excuses of not going. because of what I've seen instead of what I could potentially learn. And I can't be swayed now. I mean, I've seen a lot. Nobody's going to sway me just to outright believe what they say. You're going to have to prove it to me.
Right.
And part of your proving that to me is by showing me who you are. And if who you are doesn't align with all of the things that you're preaching at me, then I'm not going to have any faith in what you're saying because I'm just not going to believe you.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah, I know what you mean about those, they're telling you, okay, I'm going to read this. Now I'm going to tell you what this means in my words. And that's why I'm so particular to always make sure that I understand what the words mean. Because what we know the word to mean doesn't mean always what it meant then. You know, it's just a different connotation, right? And so some things that are meant to be like really sweet and loving, I take harshly because of the connotation of the word.
Mhm.
So that's why I'm always so particular about making sure I understand what the words mean because like that first verse, things can be taken out of context so easily. And when that happens, if you're, and this again has just been my learned experience, if you're reading something out of God's word and it makes you feel bad, it makes you feel condemned, you're reading it wrong. It, because it doesn't mean any of that, Now, there are some things in the Bible that, oh, I'm not supposed to be doing that,
Yeah.
There are some things in there like that, but it's not said in a harsh way. If someone's preaching and it's making you feel bad, they're probably preaching it wrong. It's making you feel condemned, and damned and all those negative things. They're probably preaching it wrong, is my experience.
Yeah.
I much prefer these easier versions on these types of verses. Are you done with
Yeah.
yours? Okay, let
Yeah.
me read what the NLT said. All the believers devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and to fellowship and to sharing in meals, including the Lord's Supper and to prayer. I was like, okay, so, like, okay, okay, yay, them. We should all be more like that, devoted to all of those things. And I was just like, I just didn't have, like, I just didn't understand where it was going. So then I looked up the easy and I'm like, for sure, that's going to be easy. These new believers listened carefully to what the apostles taught them. They joined with everyone else in the group. They prayed together and they ate meals together. And again, I was like, so, like, what's the point? I couldn't get to where I needed to be, you know? So then I looked up the CEV and it said they spent their time learning from the apostles and they were like family to each other. They also broke bread and prayed together. And I was like, oh, okay. So they're going and they're getting their bellies full. And, they're with these people that know more than them because the apostles actually spent time with Jesus. They like knew him personally. And so they heard all these things spoken from Jesus directly from his mouth. So they know they were there, they saw, they could tell you the context and they could tell you what the atmosphere, what the environment was like. It's not just words, they were actually there. Could you imagine like them explaining Jesus telling you, the parable of the fig tree? You know, like and just explaining what that meant, like that would just be amazing, in my mind's eye. And the CEV just made it feel relaxed and they were like family, you know and they're just eating and they're praying and they're learning. You know, we should always strive to learn from each other, you know, and just because I can learn something from you doesn't mean that I'm not a smart person. You know, it doesn't mean that your faith is bigger than mine, you know, just because you know more than I do. You know, you might have had a learned experience. God might have spoken something directly to you, you know, that revealed, you know, something deeper about this verse that makes things click and make sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, you know, it doesn't have to be formal. We can just be kicked back with our shoes off, flip flops on, you know, floating in a pool, and just learning and talking and just loving each other. And, you know, that to me is what it's all about.
I think you're ready for summer already.
You're absolutely right. I'm tired of being cold already. All right, take our last verse away. Verses.
All right. So this one is Ecclesiastes chapter 4, verses 9 through 12. Two are better than one because they have a good return for their labor. If either of them fall down, one can help the other up. But pity anyone who falls and has no one to help them up. Also, if two lie down together, they will keep warm. But how can one keep warm alone? Though one may be overpowered, two can defend themselves. A cord of three strands is not quickly broken. So, of course, you go, wait a minute, three. Well, obviously, God is the third. You, me, and God. Um, this one, I mean, I read all the different versions, and not one of them said anything different enough for me to write it out. So I just what I got from it was valuing a support system and companionship.
Yes.
Um, when we have mutually supportive relationships, not somebody who's take, that you're always having to give to, then it's very helpful.
Hmm.
Whether it's that you need to go to that person in confidence or because you're an emotional wreck and you need somebody to snap you out of it, provide comfort, if you will, and friendship. Like it's when you isolate, it's very easy to catastrophize things,
Hmm.
at least in my experience. That constant overthinking that ends up being negative because when you isolate, you are letting evil come in because that's when he's going to come for you, is when you're at your weakest, when you
Absolutely.
don't feel like you can walk out the door,
Yeah.
when you'd rather sit curled up in a blanket than go face the day. So that's kind of what I pulled from that, is just it's very important to have that. And yeah, I mentioned it earlier, having fellowship with other believers, people who are going to build you up, not laugh at you and tear you down.
Hmm.
So that's what I got from that one. Pretty short and sweet,
Yeah.
even though it
Yeah.
was
That's
three
good stuff.
verses.
That's good stuff. Um, this is what the NLT said. Two people are better off than one, for they can help each other succeed. If one person falls, the other can reach out and help. But someone who falls alone is in real trouble. Likewise, two people lying close together can keep each other warm. But how can one be warm alone? A person standing alone can be attacked and defeated, but two can stand back to back and conquer. Three are even better, for a triple braided cord is not easily broken. And I'm just going to be vulnerable, honest, raw here. This verse has always hurt my feelings a little bit because when I read it, it always goes to a spouse. Yeah, that's where my mind goes with
Okay,
it.
I was like, wait a minute, what? What, because
Yeah.
of the two people keeping each other warm?
No, the triple braided cord is not easily broken to people in God. When you get married, you're in covenant with God, and that's not easily broken. Well, that hasn't been my experience because I've been married twice. And, I've never had someone stand back to back with me and fight the world. I fought on my own. I fought for my marriages all by myself. Um, the again that like I said, that last sentence makes me think of God, a husband, and a wife. And I know that it's not intended that way, but I always took it that way. Um, but I know now that even though I never had a spouse that I could stand back to back with, I had it all along with the girls.
Yeah.
I have never once needed any one of y'all, and y'all not been there. Not ever once. Never once have I went silent and one of y'all are not reaching out. Where are you? I had one just over the weekend. Why are you in the woods? Like, did somebody kidnap you? Are you okay? You know, um, you guys are my soulmates, and a husband is lucky if he's a close second to that. So it's about perspective. For me, I have to change my perspective a lot. But when you were saying, when they isolate, which I tend to do, I do, because I don't want to have to explain how I'm feeling. But see, with you guys, I don't have to.
Right.
Y'all can look at my face and know what's wrong with me. You might not know details, but y'all know. And y'all know what to say. Y'all know what not to say. Y'all know what to do, what not to do. Y'all know when to just let me be the worst version of myself. You know, I get it out and I'm fine. You know, we are so blessed and so lucky with what we have in each other. It's one of the my most proudest things.
It is pretty amazing.
Yeah, it is. This is our part one of gathering. I sure hope that you guys like, share, subscribe, turn that notification thingy on. I don't know how you just smash it. It's the little bell so that when part two drops, y'all can join us again for that. Y'all have a good week.
See you next time.